Hey guys, what's going on? This is Andy Palmer, and you are watching the 13th Wolfman. Not the 12th, the 13th.
Hey everyone, I'm the 13th Wolfman. You know who I have with me today? I have an editor, a producer, and a director. Andy Palmer. He directed the newest film that I am in love with, Funhouse Massacre. Welcome to Sit Down, Andy.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
This is cool. You and I were just talking about editing, and it's really something that I love. When you got into doing films, was the goal to be an editor, or did you want to go on to be a director?
Yeah, the goal was always to direct, but I had majored in college in advertising and television production, and I fell in love with film like very early on. Wanted to direct, and I did a short my senior year that we went and shot. Like every weekend, we'd go out and shoot part of it, and then like I'd bring it back, and I kind of taught myself how to edit on the first version of Adobe Premiere. And I quickly realized that, like, when it was all said and done, that we had spent weekend after weekend and doing this and that, and by the time I parted all down, the short was like 10 minutes, and I was like, shit, man, if I knew what I was going to edit, like if I knew what I was going to cut to, then I would have needed all this time to shoot all this stuff, And so I really started focusing on the art and technique of editing, because it's really a way of learning how to craft a story, and it helps so much. And then the other thing too is that there's a lot more editing jobs in the world than there are directing jobs. So I was really fortunate once I started editing, and I started as an assistant and worked my way up, and I've been able to really kind of pay the bills and support my family for the almost 14 years I've been in LA, because I've only been directing. It took me 11 years from the time I moved to LA to get my first feature as a director done. But it was always moving to that end goal. But it really helps out when you're on set. You're always up against a time crunch, especially on indie movies, and you can't go over. You don't want to go into overtime and stuff like that. Sometimes we still do, but for the most part, as an editor, it's easy for me to look at a scene and go, okay, we can lose this camera, we can use this shot, we can move this shot. These two will cut together, so we can do this, this, and this, and then we just move on. And it's really beneficial on set. It keeps everybody calm, and that pressure to be like, oh my God, if we lose this shot, will it not come together later? Kind of goes away.
Yeah, it slipstreams the process definitely, because there's been a lot of great directors that have edited their own films.
Yeah, for sure. At the same time, I always consult with other editors during that process, because they'll come up with ideas that I don't even think of, because as a director you get way too close to your material. So it's like that's what an editor is amazing for in the post process, is to be like, hey, stop falling in love with your shit. I'm gonna make something even cooler out of it, So that's another really nice benefit. So I always cut something and then immediately bring my editor friends in to tear it apart and make it even better.
That's very cool. So when you started out, we'll get to Funhouse Massacre in a minute, but I just want to talk a little bit more about editing. I just want to hear from a professional. Sorry.
Sure.
But when you started out, and you said that you had to do deck to deck.
Yeah.
So did you ever have to actually go into a bay and use, the old editing bays that they would do like 35 on?
Sure. Yeah, I did that a little bit, but I went to this, after I graduated university, I went to this thing called the Avid Feature Film School to learn how to cut on Avid. And it was like a 2-month course. And so we learned how to cut on using Avid Media Composer, everything from live play, like live stage plays, to sitcoms, to dramas, to movies, and everything like that. And then one of the exercises we did for like a week was they had this old Lifetime movie, and we got a scene, like a 4-minute scene of the movie, and with all the raw material, and then we cut the scene, and then we exported out the what we call ink numbers from the scene in an EDL, and those ink numbers correlated with the ink numbers on the 35 millimeter film print, and they had the film print of that exact same movie. So we had to take that in, and then we had to pull the 35 mil off the shelf, and then cut that exact same scene using film. And so it took me like 25 minutes to cut the scene on Avid, and it took me 3 days to cut it on film, because you're going through it all, you're stringing it, you're taping it, you're adding all the audio to it and stuff like that. You're doing everything twice. But it really, like, you really learned what all the terms mean, like what a bin is. Like, why do they call it a bin? Well, because when you cut with 35 millimeter film, when you cut your the piece of tape, you hang it in what looks like a giant laundry bin, like on these hooks that like dangle over this laundry bin, and stuff like that. So you really get to learn like where all the terminology comes from and stuff like that. And it's very cool, very cool process.
I think it's just interesting hearing that kind of stuff. I'm like you. I'm a big movie lover. I've been a movie lover since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So to hear how they did certain things, like I was telling you earlier, I do the pop-in on some of my videos, and to know how they did that kind of stuff back in the 30s and the 40s, it's just kind of made it fun for me to edit.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and it's just like they were so clever. Things that we just so take for granted, dissolves and stuff like that was stuff that you really had to think about, like back in the day. Like when you were shooting 35 millimeter film and you were going to basically double expose two images over the top of each other, you had to compensate for that. Like that was room that you had to compensate for. For us, it's just a hit of a button and all of a sudden it dissolves with a few things. But it was everything was very meticulous. And I think that I think that now it's not really the same, but I know that for years, Spielberg still edited, like when he was editing his films, he still edited on a Steenbeck with his editors, because he loved the pacing of it. Like he loved the idea of they'd run the film through the big Steenbeck machine, and they would make the cut, and it took the editor a certain amount of time to basically make the cut, save the film, and then move on to the next thing. And then Spielberg was able to basically think about what he wanted to do next. He said with an Avid, everything was so immediate. Make a cut here, okay, cut's done, and he didn't have time to sit there and go, what am I going to do next? And so for years, he edited with his editors on an old Steenbeck machine, way past when everybody else was doing it, just because he liked the pacing of it. He liked the movement of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I first got Adobe Premiere Elements.
Yeah,
is what I use, and I couldn't believe when I got it that how easy it was. It's like, oh, you just put the little thing here, you cut, then you put the thing here and you take out the middle, and just adding dissolves was just like you said, a click of something.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
crazy.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's just and this little things like that, these little techniques that you learn and stuff like that just make a huge difference from a story perspective and stuff like that. If you you learn things like L cutting and stuff like that, where you're all of a sudden everything becomes much more rich, much more interesting and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Now let's leap forward to last year when the release of Funhouse Massacre came out. This is your first. Is this your first film as director? I mean,
no, it was my fourth. So I'd done three other features, but it was weird because I had done a movie a couple years ago called Find Me. That had come out and is out now. And then I did a movie called Alien Strain, and then I did a movie called Badlands of Cain, and then I did Funhouse. But because Badlands and Alien Strain were lower budget movies, and that it took a little bit longer to get them finished, and then when we sold them, it took the distributor a while to get them out and stuff like that. It looked like Funhouse was like the second movie, when actually it was the fourth movie, because it came out theatrically before Badlands came out on DVD and VOD, and then it came out, and then Alien Strain came out after Funhouse had come out on DVD and VOD, even though that was my second movie. So that's just kind of indie filmmaking, is you never know once you sell it when the distributor is going to release it. So it's pretty crazy. It's my fourth movie, but the second one that got released. So
So how did you get attached to doing Funhouse?
I had worked with Ben and Renee. Renee was in the first movie I ever produced, a movie called Awaken, with Corey Sevier and Jordan Ladd that my buddy Derek Liu wrote and directed, and I had produced it with my producing partner now, Warner Davis. And Renee was in the movie. We loved her energy. She's a fireball, and she's really talented. And then we met Ben, and then Ben and I are like Dave and Chainsaw from summer school. Like, we share the same brain. and we just like geek out over the same stuff, and we really hit it off. So we hung out with him a lot. Renee wrote a web series called Clueless, which is really funny. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out sometime. And Warner and I produced the series, and I directed a couple episodes. And then, like a year later, Ben sent me the script for Funhouse, and I read it in one sitting, and I was like, I've got it. We got to make this movie. And so I sent it to Warner, my producing partner, and I said, dude, I don't know how we're going to do this. It's bigger budget than we've ever done before, but we got to get this made. And we were really fortunate. We had a couple people that were interested in investing, and they loved the script as much as we did, and that was it. Movie got made.
Man, this is a great movie. You got some really some well-known actors that are in it. You know, Jerry Burns, Clint Howard, Robert Englund, and then you got some character actors that some people might know, like Ed Bell.
Yeah.
You know, what was it like working with Ed Bell? I mean, for the people who know or might not know who he is, probably one of his biggest things was he was one of the friends on Married with Children, but he was also in Hail Caesar last year.
Yeah, Ed is awesome, man. We had read so many people for Animal. I was getting like, that was the hardest part to cast, actually. I didn't think it would be, but it was. And we had a lot of people come in, and they didn't quite just have that, I don't know, just the thing that I was looking for. And Ed came in, and he was just awesome. Like, he just hit that that snobby sort of chef kind of vibe and stuff like that, this very elitist chef, but he's still also kind of fun and goofy, and you kind of love him. You know, he has that like teddy bear quality and stuff like that. And he was actually one of the first to come on board. As soon as I saw him, we offered him the part, I think, the next day, and then he was in, and he was great, man. Flew out to Ohio. We had a blast working with him. It's a big thing for me is like, I really try to get talented people, but I also want people, like, when they come in and read or when I talk to them on the phone and stuff like that, if they're jerks, like, it's not worth it. You're spending so many hours of the day with these folks, and everybody's working so hard that you want to have nice people on your cast. And when you do that, everything runs smoother, and everything is a lot more, lot happier on set. So everybody on the sets, we always try to get really nice people.
Yeah, the one thing is I'm glad you went with an Ed Bell, like, Ed Bell, because I would have been, I don't know, it just seems like I had a feeling when I was watching the movie, and they're like, this is Ed Bell, this is Animal the Cannibal. I thought for a second there we were going to see another skinny person. Right,
yeah. Yeah, definitely. He's a big guy, and he's just so, it was just so perfect. He looked perfect. Like, and it's so funny when you when I did my lookbook for the movie, when I basically put like, hey, this is what I want the movie to look like before we started filming, the picture I used was Mario Batali. And so, like, for Animal the Cannibal, I'd use this picture of Mario Batali. And so Ed kind of was like that big, that big kind of guy and stuff like that. And it was cool. And the security guard shirt, when he eats the security guard and he's wearing the shirt around the rest of the movie, I actually wore that shirt to Halloween when we were at the Rest in Peace Film Festival. So I wore that shirt, and I fit in it quite. So Ed and I are about the same size.
You know what? We have the trailer for the movie. Would you like to introduce it?
Sure. Yeah. This is a trailer for the Funhouse Massacre, horror comedy. Lots of blood, lots of guts, and lots of laughs.
Let's give the boys a tour of their new playground.
It looks like a killer scene tonight here at the Macon County Funhouse. We may need crowd control. That is right, Dr. Dave. People are literally losing their heads to get in here tonight.
Not scared. Oh, that looks so real.
That other one's hot.
This place is too scary for me.
Besides, so many white people like this.
I'm amazed at how desensitized you all are. You truly are sick individuals.
Let me guess, your friend's been murdered at the Funhouse. Wow, that was actually pretty realistic.
I think it's time for our final act.
They locked us in! What's going on here? That would be a good time to run.
I hate Halloween.
Are you crazy? Do you know what's happening out there?
Oh, you mean the deranged serial killers who are pretending to be haunted house characters and killing everybody?
These games look so fun.
These monsters, even God is afraid of.
No way you live. No way.
Yeah. Okay. You are so bad at this.
Miss, are you dead?
And we're back. And that was the trailer for the people that are still watching the live feed. But yeah, so as we're talking, I just can't stop saying how much I love this movie. There were so many elements of this movie that were great. I'll be honest. I've talked with Mr. Nine Fingers about this from time to time. I do like horror movies to be more horror, to be more scary in your face.
Yeah.
You know, Tony's more of the comedy horror guy. I'm more of the horror guy. But I will admit right here now that this is a very good horror comedy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it was one of those things like we just I just felt like it was so funny to me that if we really tried to interject a lot of scares in there, that I just was going to tonally screw it up. You know, like I was like, I think I can pull off funny and gory. I think I was going to struggle with making it really scary and really funny and gory. And so I just kind of I made a taster's choice. But my next flick that we're getting together right now is effing scary. One of the scariest scripts I've ever read. So.
That was my next question. My next question was going to be, would you ever do a in-your-face scary movie? So
yeah, this next one that we're doing, it's called Camp Coldbrook, and it's a paranormal thriller that takes place at a summer camp, which I absolutely love because I'm all about like turning kind of the stereotypical tropes on their ear, and so I love the idea of a ghost movie at a summer camp, where it's like the ghosts are like, "Excuse me, Jason, we'll take it from here, buddy," you know, and the script, this guy Alex Carl that wrote the script, it's so like I don't get scared reading scripts. This one, like, there's some really great moments of tension, and I had been meeting with Mark Allen, who is a partner over at Renfield Productions, which is Joe Dante's company. He and Joe love the script, so Joe's going to come on and executive produce, and so that's like for me, that's a freaking dream come true.
I'm a big Dante fan.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. So we're putting all the elements together. We're kind of closing in on it. But yeah, if you go on my Instagram, there we did a teaser poster for it. I think you'll dig it.
So here's one more question, then I'll let you go for tonight. I don't want to keep you up too late. But even though you're on the West Coast, just like me,
I'm on the West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. But no. Well, with this movie you're talking about, would you ever think about setting it like in the 70s or the 80s to eliminate the whole?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the dream. I don't know if you just watched Stranger Things on Netflix, But I absolutely adored that, and it is like it's definitely a dream of mine because those are the movies that I gravitate towards. Like when Philippe and I sat down, my DP for Funhouse, we watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street and we watched Big Trouble in Little China, and I said these two movies need to make love, and that's going to be the Funhouse Massacre. And so like I have a really soft spot for that genre, for that like era of movies. I think that it's better because you don't have all the technology to spoil it. For Camp Coldbrook, we're not going to, but it's more of like it's a budgetary thing. The moment you say period piece, your budget just it just skyrockets. And this movie is we're shooting it pretty lean and mean, but definitely a dream of mine to shoot a period like an 70s 80s movie for sure. And absolutely.
Yeah, those are the movies I actually grew up on because I was growing up in those times.
Yeah.
I saw The Omen when it came out in 1975 in the drive-in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the 70s, and it was such a good era, so different, but they were just, movies were just, they were better. People were willing to take chances on them. I'll tell you one thing, though. Did you see the trailer for the new Ouija movie that Mike Flanagan's directing?
I actually want to see that. The first movie that came out last year or the year before, it wasn't a great movie. It was an average horror film, but I enjoyed it, even though it was just average. So I want to see this one.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I like Mike Flanagan. I have a really I think he's a good filmmaker, but I have a real soft spot because he actually he used to edit reality TV shows too. So we have kind of a same background and stuff like that. I liked Hush a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. But that new Ouija movie looks fucking good, and it's good because it takes place back in the 80s. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a dream of mine to do it.
Yeah, the one thing that 70s movies had that a lot of other movies didn't really have, even the 80s movies. 80s movies had, the over the top, great stories, but the 70s movies had atmosphere.
Oh, dude, for sure. They definitely did. They knew how to just grab you and not let you go, and there's just I just bought I don't know if you guys know, Barnes & Noble is doing 50% off all their Criterion stuff now.
Right, they're doing the first sale of the year.
Yeah, I went and bought a bunch of the Criterion horror stuff, and there's so much good stuff, man. So much good stuff.
Well, Andy, I want to thank you for coming on, sit down, and talking about editing and Funhouse Massacre and 70s movies.
Oh man, pleasure's mine. It's been fantastic.
I want you to come back so we could spend a little more time rapping.
Dude, hit me up anytime. I'm always down for it, guys. Because I just love talking movies.
Cool. So when people are looking for you on the internet, where can they find you?
At Petrie Andy, Petri. That's my production company. At Petrie Andy on Twitter, and director Andy Palmer on the Instagram.
Cool. And I'm the 13th Wolfman, and for Andy Palmer, I'm on the prowl.